Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, I think, of Beyond, third part of a first look exploring session of this Beyond Shakespeare musical extravaganza. You'll see why I'm saying that in a minute. And we're here with Brazen Age, written by Thomas Heywood in, I think, 1603. And we are doing basically halfway through Act 4, or so it seems. And joining me to, in Robert Crighton's absence, are all these wonderful people. So we have playing Mars, Mercury, Lychas, Castor, and Jason.
Hi, Francis Cox, actor living in Amsterdam. And I'm sorry I missed Medea in yesterday's session.
Yeah, it was quite terrible and wonderful at the same time. And next we have reading Homer.
Alan Scott, very confused in Suffolk.
And reading Venus, Cloris, Neptune, and helping me host Act 5 and, the stage directions and such. And also Philoctetes is.
Oh, okay. Hello, I'm Lynn Freitas, very tired, living in the Northwestern United States.
And then we have another list of people, multiple personalities. Gallus, the Nymph, Juno, Maid, Nestor, Atreus, and Theseus.
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
And that is all. And then reading characters we've not met yet. Pyragman, Phoebus, and Omphale is...
Briony, Sparrow, actor and Pyrag woman in Lincolnshire.
Definitely. And finally, Vulcan, Deianira, Talmon, Pollux, and the priest.
Hi there, I'm Emma Kemp. I'm an actor and I'm in London.
And I am Eric Karoulla, and I'm reading the stage directions for Act 4, Jupiter and Hercules later on, so father and son, which is not going to be a problem at all. And also, in the absence of a bell, I have a ukulele. So where were we? So going from... Sorry, 1 second. I've lost my script now, which is a bit embarrassing, as per usual. Going from the entrance of Mars. Mars, take it away.
Venus, awake! We have all slept ourselves. The sun's above in his diurnal task. I saw his piercing beams pry through a cranny and cast his right eye full upon our bed.
Enter Venus.
Sorry. We are betrayed. The blab will tell the smith. Our love will come to the ear of Jupiter and all the other gods. What will Diana say when she hears of our inchastity? Or how will Juno take this spout breach from us?
Nay, rather, how will Vulcan taste our sport? He might suspect, but never proved till now. Where is the villain Gallus set to watch?
See where he snorts. The slave is dead asleep.
Awake, thou drowsy groom. Thy chastisement shall exceed thy torture.
Hey ho! What's the matter there, huh?
Look, hast thou eyes? Is not the sun 2 hours mounted aloft? Hath he not seen thee sleeping at the cave's door? Yea, beheld us too?
Aim for him to look in at anybody's window.
Speak, how canst thou excuse this?
Oh, great God, Mars.
Behold, this is thy doom. Thy negligence thus I'll chastise. Thou shalt thy humane shape henceforth forego. I will translate thy body into a bird, shall ever bear thy name. Be Gallus still, a cock, and be thy nature ever hereafter this, to watch the sun. And by thy crows and clamours warn the world 2 hours before he rise, that the sun comes clap with thy wings, and with thy shrieking loud proclaim his coming when thou thrice hast crowed.
And Gallus sinks, and in his place riseth a cock and crows.
The slave's right served. Let this his punishment live to all ages, and let Gallus' name thy just revenge to all the world proclaim. But whither shall we now?
I will to Thrace. Go you to Lemnos.
Will you leave me then to Vulcan's rage? No, let us once more meet in Paphos, and if Vulcan needs will chide, give him some cause.
Content, fair queen of love, for more he cannot be much more displeased. Let's score on still, and make our reckoning full. As yet, alas, fair queen, the depths but small. Make up the sum, and answer once for all.
Content, sweet Mars, and since that he was born to be a cuckold, let's augment his horn.
And they exit. I don't know if that was audible, but anyway, I don't have a bell. So that basically they were found out. Any quick thoughts that you want to add before we move on with the discovery of her husband coming in? No spoilers there.
Yeah,
Then.
the line that Venus has about, what will they say about us when we get caught? Like, why would Venus care?
I know, right? I don't. It just yeah.
Well, what will Juno say? What will like Venus cares what Diana says? What? That just strikes me as very much a different kind of moral universe being layered over the myth.
Yeah. And also just kind of yesterday she was very angry with Diana about Adonis being, yesterday, the day before, I don't know, slaughtered. So it's kind of, why would she care? She might lose her moral standing. Any other, Alan?
I think using the word moral in the context of this play is possibly a stretch in the language a bit too far. Yeah,
true, very true. You have a point. And anyway, moving on. Enter Vulcan with two Cyclops. Ooh, Cyclops, okay. Pyragman and Brontes.
Make haste with that shield, see it hammered well. For when 'tis done, I'll give it my father Jove. 'Tis of the purest metal Lemnos yields.
I shall, sir. Must the plate of 2 cubes high be put into the forge?
Pyragman, yes. That mass must be wrought well and soundly tempered. Bid your fellow Cyclops work lustily. It must be soon dispatched.
When saw you my lady Venus?
No matter when. The huswife's too fine-fingered and safe. The very smoke my forge doth cast chokes her. The very air of Lemnos, man, blasts her white cheeks. She scarce will let me kiss her, but she makes verger's faces. Saith my visage smudged thus with coal dust, dost infect her beauty, and makes her wear a beard. She's sure in Paphos, Cyprus or Candy, she's all for play, whilst we, Jove's thunders, hammer hard all day.
I heard her once mock that polt foot of yours. How came it, pray?
I'll tell thee, man. I was, when I was born, a pretty smug knave, and my father, Jove, delighted much to dance me in his lap. Upon a time, as he was toying with me in his high house above, that Phaeton had at that instant set the world afire. My father, when he saw heaven's basest smoke, the earth burn and Neptune's broth to seethe with heat, but startles up to thunderstrike the lad and lets me fall. Down tumbled I towards the earth. I fell through all the planets by degrees, from Saturn first, so by the moon at last, and from the moon down into Lemnos Isle, where I still live, and halt upon my fall. No marvel if it lamed me, for, Pyragman, how high I tumbled, who can guess aright, falling a summer's day from morn to night.
'Twas marvel you did not break your neck.
Had I not been derived from godlike seed, trust me, Pyragman, I had don't indeed.
The cock crows and enter Phoebus.
But to the forge, for I Apollo spy, he that sees all things with the day's bright eye. Good morrow, Phoebus. What's the news abroad? For thou seest all things in the world are done. Men act by daylight or the sight of sun.
Phoebus, where art thou?
Who's Phoebus?
I do believe it was Rachael. I think, I can't remember.
I don't.
I'm just
think
gonna
it's
check the
me.
notes 1 sec.
Oh, it's me. Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm like sat here with it in front of me. It is totally me. I'm so sorry. Sometimes I cast mine eye upon the sea to see the tumbling seal or porpoise play. There see I merchants trading, and their sails, big-bellied with the wind, sea fights sometimes, rise with their smoke, thick clouds to dark my beams. Sometimes I fix my face upon the earth, with my warm fervour to give metals, trees, herbs, plants, and flowers life. Here in gardens walk loose ladies with their lovers arm in arm. Yonder the labouring ploughman drives his team. Further I may behold main battles pitched, and whom I favour most, by the wind's help, I can assist with my transparent rays. Here spy I cattle feeding, forests there stored with wild beasts. Here shepherds with their lasses piping beneath the trees, whilst their flocks graze. In cities I see trading, walking, bargaining, buying and selling, goodness, badness, all things, and shine alike on all.
Thrice happy Phoebus, that whilst poor Vulcan is confined to Lemnos, has every day these pleasures. What news else?
No emperor walks forth, but I see his state, nor sports, but I his pastimes can behold. I see all coronations, funerals, marts, fairs, assemblies, pageants, sights, and shows. No hunting, but I better see the chase than they that rouse the game. What see not I? There's not a window, but my beams breaks in, no chink or cranny, but my rays pierce through, and there I see, oh Vulcan, wondrous things, things that thyself nor any god besides would give belief to.
What? Good Phoebus, speak.
Here wantons on their daybeds I see spread, clasping their amorous lovers in their arms, who even before my face are not sometimes ashamed to show all.
Could not God Phoebus bring me to see this pastime?
Sometimes even mean fellows abed with noble ladies whom they serve, servant with servant, married men with maids, and wives with bachelors.
Their simple doing.
And shall I tell thee, Vulcan, t'other day what I beheld? I saw the great god Mars.
God Mars?
As I was peeping through a cranny, a bed.
A bed? With whom? Ha! Some pretty wench, I warrant.
She was a pretty wench.
Tell me, good Phoebus, that when I meet him I may flout God Mars. Tell me, but tell me truly on thy life.
Not dissemble, Vulcan. 'Twas thy wife.
Out on her whore! Out on him, cuckold maker! Phoebus, I'll be revenge on great God Mars, who, whilst I hammer here his swords and shields, hammers upon my head, I will complain to Jove and all the gods, and tell them flat, I am a cuckold.
Vulcan, be advised, I have had notice where they used to meet. Couldst not devise to catch them by some wile, and lay their guilt wide open to the gods? Then mightest thou have fit colour of complaint.
Enough! I have devised a secret snare, a draw net, which I'll place upon the couch where they still use to bed, a wire so tempered and of such fineness to deceive the eye, so catch them when they are at it, and by this I may presume and be sure I am a cuckold.
That's the way to be satisfied.
If I can catch them, all the gods I'll call to see my wrongs, their sports I'll near to mar, and venge me on that lecherous god of war.
And enter the nymph, Cloris, with two more with flowers in their laps.
Cloris, you are the nymph whose office is to strew fair Venus' bed with herbs and flowers. Here is the place she means to sport herself.
I am the handmaid of the Queen of Love, and unto all her pleasure minister. When she drinks nectar, 'tis from Cloris' hand. If feed on sweet ambrosia or the fruits that cornucopia yields, I serve them up. Come, let us with fresh roses strew her couch with pansies and the buds of eglantine. Her pillow is the purple violet bank, about whose verges the blanched lilies grow, whose bodies twined about with woodbine leaves make a confused sweetness. 'Tis so 'tis well. Come Venus when she please to take her rest. Her arbor's dight, all things are well addressed.
Enter Vulcan and Pyragman with his net of wire.
By her broad charis, this I know the place, which with adulterate pastimes they pollute. Here will I set my pitfall for these birds, and catch them in the closure of this wire. So, all's fit, my snare in order placed. Happy the time that I this charis traced.
Enter Mars and Venus.
Once more, in spite of Phoebus and these eyes that dog our pastimes, we are closely met, and whilst the cuckold Vulcan blows the fire, our amorous souls their sportive bliss conspire.
He's limping thus, and like a cripple halts from forge to furnace. Where were Venus' eyes when she made choice of that foul pulled-foot smith? He smells all smoke, and with his nasty sweat tawnies my skin. Out on him, ugly knave. Mars is my love, and he my sweets shall have.
Gramercy, my kind wife.
Come, god of war, I'll teach thee a new skirmish, better far than thy stern battles. Meet me with a kiss, which I retort thus. There's a spirit in this. What he would play the coward and turn face when such sweet amorous combats are in place. My hot encounters leave me wound nor scar, yet naked I dare meet the god of war.
Out of her, whore.
I am armed for thee, prepare thee, for this night I'll breast to breast dare thee to single fight.
Come, tumble in my lap, great Mars, I dare to do his worst.
And Vulcan catcheth them fast in his net.
'Tis well, your sports are fair.
Betrayed, bound, catched, release me, or by Jove, thou diest where thou art.
Good Mars, good words. This is a fight in which you use no swords. You have left your steel behind.
Sweet Vulcan,
No more.
canst thou use Venus thus?
Away, you whore. I'll keep you fast and call the gods to see your practice. Neptune, Jove, and Mercury, Phoebus and Juno, from your spheres look down and see the cause I wear a forked crown.
And all the gods appear above and laugh. Jupiter, Juno, Phoebus, Mercury, and Neptune.
The gods are all spectators of our shame and laugh at us.
Oh, I could cry or anger. Sweet Vulcan, let me loose.
When gods and men have seen thy shame, but strumpet, not till then.
See how Mars chafes.
But Venus weeps for rage.
Neptune.
That's me too. Oh, why should Mars fret? If it be so tedious, good god of war, bestow thy place on me.
By all the gods, would she do me that grace, I would fall to it even before Vulcan's face.
To gods and men, let it be fully known, I am a cuckold.
And they also
Vulcan is no less.
Now, since red shame your cheeks with blood hath dyed, I am revenged, and see, my net's untied.
The gods have laughed their fill, Vulcan's revenged, and now all friends speak, are we?
Mars still frowns.
and Venus scarce well pleased.
For my part, oh, you gods, what's past is past, and what is once done cannot be recalled. If Vulcan in this jest hath pleased the gods, all his own wrongs he freely can forgive. Venus, we are friends. To Lemnos we will haste, and never more record what's done and past.
No, fool. Before I did offend with fear, my guilt was but suspected, but not proved. And therefore I selected privacy, closeness of place, and bashfully transgressed. But since both gods and men now know my sin, why should I dread to say, I love God Mars? What help hast thou in proving thy wife false, only to make me do with impudence what I before with fear did? On thyself brought a most certain shame, where it before was but suspected.
Venus speaks good sense. That's certain now, which was before suspense.
Now farewell, jealous fool, for my disgrace. Him whom I love I'll blushless thus embrace. And may all such as would their wives so take, although they might, be served thus for thy sake.
I am undone. Be warned by me, O men. Although you know your wives false, where and when, take them not in the manner, though you may. They that with fear before, now blushless stray. Their guilt 'tis better to suspect than know. So you may take some part of that you owe, where I, by seeking her good name to thrall, have made myself a scorn, and quite left all.
To Lemnos then, to make our thunders fit, which against mortals we have cause to use. Mars, you to Thrace, Venus in Paphos stay, or where you please, we to our several spheres. Vulcan, thy moral this good use contrives, none search too far for the offences of their wives. And they exit, and that is the end of the act. Surprise, surprise. Any thoughts?
It seems to be totally disconnected from the storylines that have been running through the play so far. It almost feels like a one-act play that's been dumped into the middle of this on the basis of doing something for light relief. And it has been a blessed bit of relief, because it's getting away from a lot of the more toxic bits of mythology that we've been having so far. And I think that sequence and the one with which we finished yesterday, as the whole Mars, Venus, Gallus bit onwards, seems to work as a unit, but with no discernible connection to me to the stuff that we dealt with in the previous 3.5 acts.
Maybe it's letting someone get a costume change or something. Briony.
If Alan's describing that as like less toxic and a bit of light relief from what you've been reading, I'm kind of glad that I've jumped in on this session, to be honest, because that was like Jerry Springer worthy. So the only revenge he wants is to publicly shame them, even though that totally shames him too. But then when he thinks it's all sorted, she's like, well, no, now that you've told everybody I'm sleeping with Mars, I'm just going to carry on doing it brazenly. Like, what?
Yeah.
And then someone's going to hit him with a chair in a minute.
Right? Yeah.
Francis. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, one thing that struck me about it was the way Vulcan sort of broke the fourth wall and kind of addressed the audience, because we haven't had that in this play so far.
We did a little bit yesterday when Gallus first appeared.
Oh, okay.
Because the reaction at the time was, oh, good, we've got the clown coming on. Because his opening 2 or 3 lines were absolute classic clown material. Wordplay, I'm Gallus, I'm not the gallows, I'm not a Frenchman. Blurdy, blurdy, blur.
Yeah. And any other thoughts, Lynn? I think you've been wanting to say something for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I realize that that Heywood is playing fast and loose with the material that's available to him, but I've never heard a variant of the explanation for Hephaestus or Vulcan's lameness being, oh, Jove accidentally threw me out. I fell out of heaven accidentally when I was a baby. It was either he was born that way, or Jove tossed the adult Vulcan, Zeus tossed the adult Hephaestus off of Olympus because he was angry and he fell to earth.
I know that there are two versions, but I think it's like, as in he was reborn at some point along the way, and then he's thrown out of heaven again. It's complicated. Myth. Whatever.
And Venus and Vulcan, Aphrodite and Hephaestus aren't married because they want to be. That Jove told them they had to get married. Yeah. So she didn't choose him. So, but we're trying to kind of make this more a sort of human story, I think. So it was a warning to men: if you think your wife is fooling around, just ignore it, because the other alternative is worse. So
yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's like, is your wife cheating on you? No, call this number. Briony. Sorry.
I was just going to say on what Lynn said there about the and what you were saying about how he's fallen out twice. They probably should just get some baby gates on Mount Olympus.
I mean, yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely. And any other thoughts about this act? I mean, obviously, because we broke it up into two, like yesterday and today, it's kind of hard to, have continuity. But yeah, any other thoughts before we move on to Act 5? I think Brian wants to add more.
I don't know if it's something, maybe people are already aware of this from the myth, because my myth knowledge is very patchy. But I just quite liked in the first bit that we read the finding out why cockerels crow in the morning.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was going to be Gallus as in like a turkey, because I thought it was Latin for turkey, but apparently not.
No. Gallo is rooster in Spanish. I don't actually remember what it is in French. Rachael, what's rooster in French?
I can't remember. We'll remember at some point.
But it's a really close cognate in Spanish. I know it's so. Yeah,
Gallo is rooster, I think, in Italian as well.
Cool. Okay. So moving on to Act 5. Lynn, do you want to do the honors, or?
Sure, I'll do the act breaks and the stage directions from here on out, and unless I just completely spaz out. But yeah. So Homer enters to the prologue for Act 5.
Tedious grow, what is too long in word, accept in show. Think Hercules, his labours having ended, the Spanish Geryon killed and Cacus slain. As far as Lydia, he his palm extended, where beauteous Omphale this time doth reign. He that before to Deianira sent, as presents, all the spoils that he could win, now fills her heart with jealous discontent. She hears how Hercules doth card and spin with Omphale, and serves her like as a slave. She quite forgot in Thebes her grief to cheer. The assembled princes with their counsels grave are come to comfort and remove her fear. By these all his stored labours he hath sent, to call him home, to free her discontent.
A show. Enter Deianira, sad, and Lychas. To her, Jason, Telamon, Castor, Pollux, Nestor, etc. They seem to comfort her. She sends Lychas, who brings the trophies of his 12 labors. She delivers them to the princes to bear to her husband. They part several ways.
Jason and the other heroes, for her sake, travel to Lydia to persuade him thence, and by his 12 known labors undertake to move him quite to abandon his fair wench. Further than this, her jealousy extends. A far worse present she by Lychas sends.
And the end of the prologue. I just want to expand my window so I can see everyone. Any comments or observations on this little bit before we move on to the scene proper? Okay. All right. Act 1, Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Deianira and her servant Lychas.
Madam, these sorrows are too violent for your weak sex. I do not think 'tis true. Your husband can prefer that Omphale before your beauty.
He's forgot in Greece. Greece that was wont to clangor with his fame is now all silent. Who but Jason now, and Telamon, that scaled the walls of Troy? Alcides is a name forgot amongst us, and Deianira too forgot within him. Oh, that I had the tempting strumpet here that keeps my lord away, confining me into the coldness of a widowed bed.
Madam, these presents sent, and so well known, coming from you, must needs prevail with him. These princes have great interest in his love, and can persuade much.
But that strumpet more. Lycus, he dotes upon her tempting looks, and is so much with her enchantments blear that he's turned woman, Lycus, spins, cards, and doth chore work, while his mistress sits and makes a cushion of his lion's skin, makes of his club a rock. I lose myself in this my sorrow and forget the means I still keep by me to restore my love. Lycus, fetch me the shirt within my chamber. I have before me now.
Madam, I shall.
This shirt, in blood of Centaur Nessus dipped, and since washed out, I'll send my Hercules, which hath the power to make his hot love die to any stranger, and revive to me. This, as his last, the dying Centaur spake. To this I'll trust, all other hopes forsake.
Re-enter Lycas.
Madam, the shirt.
This, as my best and dearest, present me, trusty Lycas, to my lord. Entreat withal, that if he have not quite put off my love, he'll deign to put on this. If he despise my gift, return it back, and in it my death.
Fear not, fair princess. I hope to prove as fortunate as faithful.
Farewell. Prove as thou speakest. If my gift fail, I have sentenced all my sorrows to one death, whilst Deianira hath a hand to use, she'll not live hated where she once did choose.
And they exit. Okay. Thoughts on this scene? Yeah, Eric, who knows how the story turns out?
Well, the infidelities trope is continuing, which is quite interesting because it's like sort of adopted in the middle of the play, which is quite like, plays, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, it's just sort of weird. It's taken this sort of not 180, but like suddenly it found a direction. Whereas now we had all the heroic exploits, and now we've got all the sort of infidelity themed.
But the way this infidelity is treated, the mood seems quite different.
Yeah.
Rachael and Alan.
And I was gonna say these scenes that we get, they're the characters aren't the same, but it's like we get these contrasting pieces. Like yesterday we had I think Medea and Althea between these days, and Althea it was both killing your children and being loyal to your brothers or your father or something like that, and picking between men. And these are kind of like it's Venus's infidelity, and then Hercules infidelity, and I think we're getting like two different outcomes of like similar situations, and some so not judgment on the characters, but like different scenarios on similar themes with a different cast.
Yeah, thematically, I think maybe there's a little cohesion here. Alan, I think you were next.
Yeah,
and then
what we had was that this has suddenly reintroduced something that was very briefly referred to back in Act 1 or maybe even Act 2, the point at which Nessus the Centaur soaked his dying blood into the shirt and said that it was going to be a love token. But I would have thought unlikely that the audience would have actually retained what was almost done as a throwaway line at that point for the succeeding 3 acts.
It depends. It's actually quite a famous episode in mythology, so it might have been like, oh, that is. Briony and then Francis?
Yeah, I was just going to say this is it's similar but different, because this seems to be much more emotional infidelity, whereas the other one seemed to be quite physical and they were just meeting in secret, whereas it's more open and it's more emotional by the sounds of it.
Yeah, Francis?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I thought it was quite nice to finally get the payoff for all that business in our first session in Act 1, I think it was, with Nestor's blood on the shirt. It was just nice. Here we are again.
And Rachael, did you wave a little bit again?
Also the stakes, the difference in stakes, like immortals, it's harder to kill them, and he's half immortal and I think she's mortal, and also the difference in the way that infidelity done by a man is treated differently than a woman in this era, and the consequences of that, and the social acceptability, or not acceptability but expectation, that a man would and a woman would not.
Yeah, got that contrast going on. But yeah, and I like Briony's observation that what made Vulcan angry is that she was physically involved with Mars, and what breaks Deianira's heart is he's in love with someone else. Eric, did you wave a little bit?
Yeah, I was going to say the only one who seems to get away with it is Venus, because she's a goddess. She can do whatever she likes. Whereas for the women,
she's a goddess of love. She's a goddess of physical love. It's like,
yeah.
You don't get away with that. Okay, any more for any more, as the saying goes. All right, let us move on. When we did this on Monday, we just ran so close to time. I'm a little concerned about the time thing. So Lychas and Deianira exit. Act 5, Scene 2, enter Omphale, Queen of Lydia, and 4 or 5 maids, Hercules attired like a woman with a distaff and a spindle.
Why so? This is a power infused in love, beyond all magic. It's not strange to see a woman's beauty tame the tyrant tamer, and the great monster master overmatch. Have you done your task?
Beauteous queen, not yet.
Then I shall frown.
Before that lovely fair, I augment my task unto a treble chore. For one sweet smile from beauteous Omphale, I'll lay before the monstrous heads of the grim tyrants that oppress the earth. I, that before at Juno's strict behest, the 100 giants of Cremona slew, will twice 500 kill for Omphale. Find me a caucus in a cave of fire. I'll drag him from the mountain of Aventine and lay his bulk at thy victorious feet. Find me another Geryon to captive. All his 3 heads I'll tumble in thy skirt. Bid me once more sack hell to bind the fumes, to bind the furies, or to present thee with the gods in chains. It shall be done for beauteous Omphale.
Leave prating, ply your work.
Oh, what a sweetness lives in her looks. No bondage or base slavery seems servitude, while I may freely gaze, and uncontrolled, on her. But for one smile, I'll make her empress o'er the triple world, and all the beauteous queens from east to west, the Lydians, vassals, and my fellow slaves. There is no lord but love, no vassalage but in affection, and the imperious queen doth tyrannize o'er captive Hercules.
Enter a maid.
Madame, some dukes of Greece attend without and crave to see your captive Theban here.
Admit them. They shall see what pomp we have, and that our beauty can the loftiest slave.
Enter Jason, Telamon, Castor, Pollux, Nestor, Atreus, etc.
Our business was to Theban Hercules. 'Twas told us he remained with Omphale, the Lydian queen.
Speak. Which is Omphale, or which Alcides?
We are the Queen of Lydia, and this our vassal. Do you know him, lords? Stoop, slave, and kiss the foot of Omphale.
I shall. Do we have a Nestor? I think we.
A wondrous alteration.
Till now I trusted this report was false, and scarcely can I yet believe mine eyes.
Lady, our purpose was to Hercules. Show us the man.
Behold him, Greeks, there.
Where?
There at his task.
Alas, this is Hercules. This is some base, effeminate groom, not he that with his puissance frighted all the earth. This is some woman, some hermaphrodite.
Hath Jason, Nestor, Castor, Telamon, Atreus, Pollux all forgot their friend? We are the man.
Woman, we know thee not. We came to seek the Jove-born Hercules, that in his cradle strangled Juno's snakes and triumphed in the brave Olympic games. He that the Cleonian lion slew, the Erymanthian boar, the bull of Marathon, the Lernaean hydra, and the winged hart. He that dragged Cerberus from hell in chains and stoned Pluto in the ebon chair. That Hercules by whom the centaurs fell, great Achilles, the Stymphalides, and the Cremonian giants. Where is he?
That traitorous Nessus with a shaft transfixed, strangled Amphius, purged Augea's stalls, won the bright apples of the Hesperides, and whilst the giant Atlas eased his limbs, bore on his shoulders the huge frame of heaven.
And are we not the man? See, Telamon, a woman would do this. We would see the Theban that Cacus slew, Busiris sacrificed unto his horses, hurled stern Diomed to be devoured. I think that might be someone else's line.
That freed Hesione from the sea whale, and after ransacked Troy, and with his own hand slew Lacomeedon.
He by whom Dercillus and Albion fell, he that Icalia and Patricia won, that monstrous Geryon with his 3 heads vanquished, with Linus, Lychas that usurped in Thebes, and captived there his beauteous Megara.
He that the Amazonian baldric won, that Achilles with his club subdued, and won from him the pride of Calydon, bright Deianira, that now mourns in Thebes for our absence of that noble Hercules. To him we came, but since he lives not here, come, lords, we will return these presents back unto the constant lady whence they came.
Stay, lords.
Amongst women?
For that Theban's sake whom you profess to love and came to seek, abide a while, and by my love to Greece, I'll bring you before that lost Hercules for whom you came to inquire.
On that condition, princes, let's stay a little.
It works. It works.
How have I lost myself? Did we all this? Where is that spirit become that was in us? No marvel, Hercules, if thou be strange to them that thus disguised art to thyself unknown. Hence with this distaff and base effeminate chores.
How, slave, submit unto thy task again. Darest thou rebel?
Pardon, great Omphale.
Will Telamon persuade me this is Hercules, the Libyan conqueror, now a slave? He lived in midst of battles, this mongst trials. This wields a distaff, he a conquering club. Shall we bestow fair Daenerys' presence on this? Heaven knows whether man or woman.
Who named my Deianira? Jason? You? How fares my love? How fares my beauteous wife? I know these presents. Did they come from her? What strumpet's this that hath detained my soul, captive to my fame, transshaped me to a fool, made me of late but little less than a god, how now scarce a man? Hence with these womanish tires, and let me once more be myself again.
Keep from him, Omphale, be that your charge. We'll second these good thoughts.
Alcides, hear me.
By your favour, madam?
Who spake?
Think that this was Dianara's voice that calls thee home to dry her widow's tears and to bring comfort to her desolate bed.
Oh, Deianira.
Hear me, Hercules.
Omphale?
You shall not trouble him.
'Twas she that made Alcides womanish, but Deianira to be more than man. For thy wife's sake, thou art renowned in Greece. This strumpet hath made Greece forget thee quite, and scarce remember there was such a man. Thebes, that was wont to triumph in thy glories, is now all silent. Tyrants everywhere begin to oppress, thinking Alcides dead, for so the fame's already. Shall a strumpet do this upon the Theban Hercules? And Deianira, fair, chaste, absolute, in all her perfections, lived despised in Thebes.
By Jove, she shall not. First I'll rend these eyes out that sotted with the love of Omphale hath transhaped me and deeply injured her. Come, we will shake off this effeminacy, and by our deeds we purchase our renown. Jason and you brave Greeks, I know you now, and in your honors I behold myself what I have been. Hence, strumpet Omphale, I cast thee off, and once more will resume my native virtues, and to prove this day unto the gods I'll sacrifice to grace which pomp, and that we may appear the same we were. Before us shall be born these of our labors 12, the memory unto Jove's temple, grace us worthy heroes to assist us. Unto Jove's temple, grace us worthy heroes to assist us in this high solemnity. Whilst we upon our manly shoulders bear these massy pillars, we in Gades must rear.
All exit except Omphale.
We have lost our servant. Never yet had lady one of the like rank. All King Theseus' daughters, 50 in number, chided all one night, could not prevail so much with Hercules as we have done. No, not fair Iole, daughter to Caucus, beauteous Megara, nor all the fair and amorous queens of Greece could slave him like the Lydian Omphale. Therefore, where'er his labours be renowned, let not our beauty pass unregistered, bondaging him that captived all the earth, nor will we leave him, or yet loose him thus. What either beauty, cunning, flattery, tears, or woman's art can, we will practice on him. But now the priests and princes are prepared for the great sacrifice, which we will grace with our high presence, and behold aloof these rites unto the gods performed and done. We'll gain by art what we with beauty won.
Pause and talk about this a little bit. So thoughts about this little sequence? The scene's not technically over. We do shift gears here. Oh, come on. Yeah, Briony.
I love it. Some of what we've been saying in the chat, I think, needs to be said. I think Helen was the first one to notice that we had a dominatrix in the scene, and I agree. I think, yeah, she is playing all kinds of weird games with him, but it's just a shame that this scene is just so deeply entrenched in it, is all of this toxic masculinity and transphobia and gender horribleness.
Yeah, I think gender horribleness needs to enter the sort of scholarly lexicon. Yeah, Rachael, then Alan.
Yeah, I think also like all this other stuff what Briony just said that we've been saying in the chat. Also they're playing a meta theater joke because these are all men, and some of the men are playing women's roles. So it's genuinely a thing where I think the audience would not know that the guy playing Hercules is also doubling as some as a another woman character until this is being said by those people. So it's like a surprise, I guess, reveal that they're coming back to this story of Hercules, which doesn't really, sit that nicely with us now. The theater game they're playing almost.
Alan?
I must admit, I was hearing a mental soundtrack in the background during that sequence of Sweet Transvestite from Rocky Horror.
Yeah, only that's sort of a celebration of fluidity of gender, and this is definitely a very negative take on that. Worst thing that can happen to a man is to take on the role and the clothes and the identity of a woman. That's absolutely the bottom, according to the standards that seem, and that's uncomfortable for a lot of us. Any other reaction to this? All right. Eric, before we move on.
Yeah, as a trans person reading that, it's like, oh God. I do not want to be in that position. It's like,
Sorry, did you just say me?
Yeah, I saw your hand.
Sorry, it glitched just as you said something, so I heard you say something. I think it's quite interesting that, because the way they've done it, and if you think of it as like a dom sub situation, it is quite true to what we now know about these situations whereby men who have a lot of masculine power, in quite often, or I don't know about how often, but it is known that sometimes they like to go to a dominatrix to relinquish that power, and that gives them a thrill, because in life they are so powerful, they like to turn the tables, and I just think it's really interesting that way before terms like sadism and whatnot have even been, they don't even exist, they know, they're aware that this kind of thing obviously has, it must happen. I don't know, it seems very modern thinking.
That sort of the erotic charge of changing those roles. I have also read that the most common profession among clients of dominatrices are attorneys. So there's something, and it's also something sort of like they're doing their penance for basically not being very good people. That it's an interesting hint that there was an understanding of that kind of psychic or psychological conversation going on way before we had terms for it. Okay, so we'll move on if that's okay with everyone. Enter to the sacrifice 2 priests to the altar, 6 princes with 6 of his labors. In the midst, Hercules bearing his 2 brazen pillars, 6 other princes with 6 other labors. Hercules stays them.
Now, Jove, behold us from thy sphere of stars, and shame not to acknowledge us thy sons, that thus should Alcides march amongst his spoils, ingirt with slaughtered lions, hydras, whales, boars, bulls, grim tyrants, hellhounds, monsters, furies, and princes his spectators. Ho, you gods, to whom this day we consecrate your prayers, and dedicate our sacred orisons. Deign us your eyes. Behold, these shoulders bear 2 brazen pillars, trophies of our fame, that have eased Atlas and supported heaven. And had we shrunk beneath that heavenly structure, the spheres, orbs, planets, zeniths, stars, and signs and stars, with love's high palace, with Jove's high palace, all confusedly had shattered, fallen, and overwhelmed earth and sea. We have done that, and all these labors else, which we this day make sacred. Juno, see these we surrender to thy love and thee.
Set on, as they march over the stage, enter Lychas with the shirt.
From Deianira, I present this gift, wrought with her own hand, with more kind commends than I have measured steps to Lydia from Thebes, which she entreats you wear for her.
More welcome is this gift to Hercules than Jason's fleece, Laomedon's white steeds, or should Jove grace me with eternity? Here stand our pillars with non-ultra insculpts, which we must rear beyond the Pyrene hills at Gades in Spain. Alcides has utmost bounds. Whilst we put on this shirt, the welcome present of Deianira, whom we dearly love, Lychas thy hand, in this we'll sacrifice and make our peace with her and Jupiter.
Never was Hercules so much himself. How will this news glad Deianira's heart, or how this sight enrage fair Omphale?
All his dead honours he revives in this, and Greece shall once more echo with his fame.
Hercules puts on the shirt.
With this, her present, I put on her love. Witness heaven, earth, and all you peers of Greece. I wed her once in this ornament. Her love and her remembrance sit to me more near by thousands than this robe can cleave. So now before Jove's altar, let us kneel and make our peace with heaven. Atone ourselves with beauteous Deianira, our chaste wife, and cast away the love of Omphale.
All the princes kneel to the altar.
Princes of Greece, assist us with your thoughts, and let your prayers with ours ascend the spheres. For mortals, orisons are sons to Jove, and when none else can, they have free access unto their father's ear. Hail, son of Saturn, to whom when the three lots of heaven, of sea, and hell were cast, the high Olympus fell.
Oh,
That with a nod canst make heaven's columns bend, and earth's centre tremble, whose right hand is armed with lightning, and the left with fear.
no more are all the Furies with their tortures, their whips and lashes crept into my skin. Hath any sightless and infernal fire laid hold upon my flesh? When did Alcides thus shake with anguish, thus change face, thus shrink? Shall torture pale our cheek? No, priest, proceed, we will not feel the pain, thou shalt not breed.
What alteration's this? 1,000 pangs I see even in his visage. In his silence he doth express even hell.
Thou sacred Jove, behold us at thy altar prostrate here to beg atonement between our sins and thee. Lend us a gracious ear and eye.
Priest, no more, I'll rend thy typet. Hurl Jove's altars down, havoc his offerings, all his lamps extinguish, raise his high temples, and scale heaven itself, unless he stay my tortures.
Or like Theban, whence comes this fury? Is this madness forced that makes Alcides thus blaspheme the gods?
Patient yourself.
I will not, Jason, nor cannot tell him, and a styptic poison boils within my veins. Hell is within me, for my marrow fries a vulture worse than that Prometheus feels. Fires on my entrails and my bulk in flames.
Yet be yourself, renowned Hercules. Strive with your torture, with your rage contend. Seek to overcome this anguish.
Well, I will see Jason, see renowned Telman. I will be well. I'll feel no poison boil, though my blood scaled me, though my heart suspires. Blast where I breathe like lightning through though my lungs seethe in my blood. I will not pale a cheek nor change a brow. I will not, spite of torture, anguish, and pain. I will not.
What strange fury hath late possessed him to be thus disturbed?
Why, this is well. Once more repair Jove's altar. Kindle these holy tapers and proceed.
Pluck the thunderer from his crystal throne and throw the galaxia by the locks and amber tresses. Drag the queen of heaven.
Alcides.
Princes Jason Telamon, help me to tear off this infernal shirt, which roars me where it cleaves. Unskin my bronze, and like one naked rolled in a ton of spikes of thousands, make one infernal wound, and such is mine. O Deianira, false, treacherous, unkind, disloyal, pluck, tear, and through you, though you my bones leave naked, and my flesh frying with poison, you cast hence to dogs. Dread Neptune, let me plunge in thy seas to cool my body that is all on flame, or with thy trisulk thunder strike me, Jove, and so let fire quench fire. Unhand me, lords. Let me spurn mountains down and tear up rocks rent by the roots huge oaks, till I have digged our way to hell or found a scale to heaven. Something I must. My torments are so great to quench this flame and qualify this heat.
He exits.
Let us not leave him, princes, lest this outrage make him lay violent hands upon himself. If Deianira's heart were with her hand, she is her sex's scandal and her shame, even whilst time lives, shall ever tongue proclaim.
And they exit.
I'll follow too, and with what art I can, strive that his rage and torture to allay.
Omphale exits.
What's in this shirt unknown to me that brought it? Or what hath jealous Deianira's done to employ me, an unwilling messenger, in her lord's death? Well, whosoe'er it prove, my innocence I know. I'll, if I may, look to my life and keep out of his way.
Re-enter Hercules.
Lychas, where's he that brought this poison shirt, that I may tear the villain limb from limb and flake his body small as winter snow? His shattered flesh shall play like parched leaves and dance in the air, tossed by the summer winds.
Defend me, heaven!
Oh, with that stamping thus, I could myself beneath the center sink, and to my tortured body beneath hell. Had I heaven's massy columns in my gripes, then with one sway I would overturn yon frame, and make marble elemental sky my tombstone to enter dead Hercules. Oh, Father Jove, thou layest upon thy son torments above supporture. Lychas, oh, I'll chase the villain o'er in Eetes rocks until I have naked those hills and left no shade to hide the traitor.
Which way shall I fly to escape his fury? If I stay, I die.
Hercules sees him.
Stay. What's he that creeps into yon cave? Is not that Lychas Deianira's squire that brought this poisoned shirt to Hercules? I thank thee, Jove, that this is some allayment and moderation to the pangs I feel. Nay, you shall outfur Lychas by the heels. Thus thy limbs about my head I twine, till you be and see receive him, for he's thine.
Enter Jason, Telamon, and all the princes, after them Omphale.
Princes, his torments are above physic help, and they that wish him well must wish him death, for that alone gives period to his anguish.
In vain we follow and pursue his rage. There's danger in his madness.
Yet aloof, let's observe him and great Jove implore to qualify his pains.
As I am Philoctetes, I will not leave him until he be immortal. Princes, hark! Hercules groans within. Cannot these groans pierce heaven to move pity the obdure Juno?
Beneath this rock where we have often kissed, I will lament the noble Theban's fall. The Lydian Omphale will be to him a truer mistress than his wife, whose hate hath brought on him this sad and ominous fate. Nor hence for any force or prayer remove, but die with him whom I so dearly love.
Cry within.
His torments still increase. Hear, O you gods, and hearing pity.
Enter Hercules from a rock above, tearing down trees.
Down, down, you shadows that crown each mountain. You, as you tumble, bear the rocks along. I will not leave an oak or standing pine, but all these mountains with the dales make even, that Aeetes' self may mourn with Hercules. What art thou?
I am thy Omphale.
Art thou not Deianira come to mock Alcides' madness and his pangs deride? Yes, thou art she, thou hast fired my bones and makest me boil in poison, for which minion and for by fate thou hast shortened my renown. Behold, this monstrous rock thy death shall crown. So Deianira and her squire, now both in their sins extinct.
What hath Alcides done, slain Omphale, a guiltless queen that came to mourn his death?
Torment on torment, but shall Hercules die by a woman's hand? No, aid me, princes. If you have in you any generous thoughts in my last fabric, come, toss trees on trees till you have reared me up a funeral pile, which all that's mortal in me shall consume.
Princes, let none deny their free assistance in his release of torture. There's for me.
My hand shall likewise help to bury him, and of his torments give him ease by death.
All the princes break down the trees and make a fire, in which Hercules placeth himself.
Thanks, thus I thrown me in the midst of fire, and with a dreadless brow confront my death. Olympic thunderer, now behold thy son, of whose divine parts make a star, that Atlas may shrink beneath the weight of Hercules, and step-dame Juno, glut thy hatred now that hast been weary to command when we have not been weary to perform and act. I, that Bucerus slew, Antheus strangled, and conquered still at thy unkind behest the three-shaped Geryon, and the dog of hell, the bull of Candy, and the golden heart, Augeas and the fowls of Stymphale, the Hesperian fruit and bolt of Thermodon, the Lernaean hydra, and Arcadian boar, the lion of Nemea, steeds of Thrace, the monster Caucasus, thousands more than these that Hercules in death dares thee to chide, and shows his spirit which torments cannot hide. Lie there, thou dread of tyrants, and thou skin.
He burns his club and lion's skin.
Invulnerate still, burn with thy master's bones, for these be arms which none but we can wield. My bow and arrows, Philoctetes take. Reserve them as a token of our love, for these include the utmost fate of Troy, which without these the Greeks can ne'er destroy. You, heroes, all farewell. Heap fire on fire and pile on pile, and until you have made the measure, the structure to flame as high as heaven, and record this, though by the gods and fates we are overthrown, Alcides dies by no hand but his own.
Jupiter above strikes him with a thunderbolt. His body sinks, and from the heavens descends a hand in a cloud that from the place where Hercules was burnt brings up a star and fixeth it in the firmament.
Juno, thou hast done thy worst. He now defies what thou canst more. His fame shall mount the skies. What heavenly music's this?
His son
Telamon.
made a star and mounted heaven. I see great Jove hath not forgot his son. All that his mother's was is changed by fire. But what he took of Jove and was divine, now a bright star in the high heavens must shine.
Enter Atreus.
We all have seen Alcides deified, but what news brings Atreus? A true report of Deianira's death, who when she heard the tortures of her lord and what effect her fatal present took, exclaimed on Nessus, and to prove herself guiltless of treason in her husband's death, with her own hand she boldly slew herself.
Noble act proclaimed her innocence and clears all black suspicion. But fair princes, let universal Greece in funeral black mourn for the death of Theban Hercules.
Who now shall monsters quell, or tyrants tame, the oppressed free, or fill Greece with their fame? Princes, your hands, take up these monuments of his 12 labours in a marble temple we will erect and dedicate to him. Reserve them to his lasting memory. His brazen pillars shall be fixed in gades on which his monumental deeds will grave. Armed with these worthy trophies, let's march on towards Thebes that claims the honour of his birth. His body's dead, his fame shall ne'er expire. Earth claims his earth, heaven shows his heavenly fire.
Exit all, enter Homer as the epilogue.
He that expects 5 short acts can contain each circumstance of these things we present. Methinks should show more barrenness than brain. All we have done, we aim at your content, striving to illustrate things not known to all, in which the learned can only censure right. The rest we crave, whom we unlettered call, rather to attend than judge. For more than sight, we seek to please the understanding ear, which we have hitherto most gracious found, your general love. We rather hope than fear, for that all our labours is the ground. If from your love at any point we stray, think Homer blind, and blind men miss their way.
And the play ends. I see faces. Okay, who would like to dive in? Eric, I saw you first.
That was intense. Just like, I mean, aside from all the listing of the things, just like that was an intense ending. What the, and really unexpected.
Which reminds me, before I called for comments, I wanted to little round of applause for Hercules' performance there. That was quite the marathon of acting. So yeah, extended torment. Briony?
Yeah, there's a lot. So the deaths of Lychas and Omphale, just like one sentence stage directions, and that must have been so brutal to see him bash her head in with a rock on stage. It's not even on off stage death. Mind blown. I would love to know how they did for Jupiter hitting him with a thunderbolt bit back in the day. I would love to know how on earth they achieved that. And then the other thing, why? So everybody knows that Deianira has caused this, but because she killed herself, that's fine. She's okay. We like her now. It's all cleared. What?
Oh well, yeah. I think they're saying she obviously didn't know what she was doing, and which she didn't. She believed Nessus when he said this is a love potion rather than poison. So we know that already, that she thought she was winning his love back, and they just figure that out. Oh, she killed herself. She must have not meant to do that. It's a little underdeveloped, but that's what's going on. Who else wants to respond to this sequence? Rachael.
I wonder, about that, what you just said, and it's parallel. How does that parallel with how would that parallel with Hercules' killing himself in a way after murdering Omphale, because he's had I don't know. I feel like, our modern idea of gender and identity, and that he's a very different person, and he's been able to exercise a part of his identity and gender, and the dynamics of that with Omphale that he's not exercised anywhere else, that this toxic masculinity he's presented to us all this other way in the Silver Age and in this kind of disappears when he's with Omphale, and only returns when the rest of the guys return. And killing himself after murdering her, and nobody comes to the conclusion that he didn't mean it with her. But like from an actor's perspective, I don't know, that's just a way to step in and do something with Hercules. And it feels like a fun moment that, his own personal struggles with the identity he's allowed to show, and the person he really is, kind of dies with her in some way.
That's a little against the grain, but I really like it. In that scene where he's weaving and spinning and doing female, he's really happy. But for once in his life, he's happy. And when he goes back to being Hercules, Mr. Hypermasculine, that's unsustainable. He has to kill himself. So that this play seems to valorize that brand of masculinity. But I think that idea that we could kind of undermine that we could interrogate that a little bit with the performance is really interesting. Francis, I saw a little wave.
Yeah, the ending with Jove making Hercules a star, I couldn't help being reminded that when Rudolph Valentino died, a kitschy sentimental song came out called "There's a New Star in Heaven Tonight." So I think if I was staging this, I would probably play it at the end.
I did not know that, and I am old. But I'm not Rudy Valentino old, But neither of you, of course. But Alan, yeah.
I must admit, I got quite confused. Well, I've been confused throughout, but I had the impression that Lychas was actually handmaid to Deianira, and yet gets referred to with the masculine description 2 or 3 times. And I think it makes more sense for that character to be the handmaid rather than another random male servant, effectively.
No, yeah. I mean, I suppose you could make it a female character, but Lycus is a page, a squire, a male servant. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's unfortunately we've only got a list of characters. We haven't got full descriptions, which is always my problem with these scripts, of trying to work out who the blasted people are and how they relate and genders and so on. The other thing is there's a massive continuity issue, because at the beginning of that final sequence, we've got the entry of the 6 princes with 6 of his labours and another 6 princes with the other 6 souvenirs. And yet we've been told previously that he'd sent them all back home to Deianira. So there was obviously nobody looking at continuity anywhere on this in the originals, and I'm sure that that's legitimately survived from the early versions of the script that were about. But it just, I was looking at it thinking, hold on a minute, we've got time travel, time and space are being irrelevant, and I just want some of the herbs that they were smoking at the time.
Eric.
Yeah, there was also a repetition about where he's like, listing his what he's going to give out to people, and then suddenly he goes add more, pile on, stuff onto the fire. And I wondered if that was a repetition or he was just like so desperate to die by that point. But I don't know, it's just such a weird scene because it gives I was reading it cold, but it just gives you so much to do. Like running around and doing stuff, and just very violent stuff as well. And
it's quite protracted.
Yeah. But I mean, it's almost like sort of the counterbalance to the Venus and Adonis scene, which was very stationary and like we didn't get the boar chase scene, for example. But it's very sort of dynamic, active. I don't know what you want to call it. Very sort of driven.
Yeah, Briony.
Yeah, and to be fair, compared to a lot of mad characters and scenes and that we've had, it's actually very well written, and probably because they weren't trying to just do like random madness perhaps, and it was more about him becoming more like who he used to be. I don't know, but it's a lot more realistic in terms of our modern understanding of mental health.
it's quite moving. It's really quite affecting. How long he has to suffer before he finally decides that he's not going to, he can't live with this, and he has to commit suicide somewhere or another. Rachael, is this a
just one more thing about like the shirt, like how you know, because they're redressing him into this old identity of Alcides, that you know, this old name, and this old shirt. You know, how Alan said how many people would even remember it, that it's something that you've almost forgotten about until this moment. And this is what drives him mad, you know, into that
nice.
against the grain, I guess. I don't think the playwright, you know, was meaning it in the psychological way or in the gender way, but how that says something, that it's literally like this old identity is like burning him.
Yeah, nice. But Briony?
Yeah, that's brilliant, because I was thinking already, like, given how it ends, you could perhaps play with the gender horribleness, and use it to kind of to highlight how unnecessary these strict ideas of gender are and how damaging they can be. And I love that what Rachael just picked up on there, that the shirt is almost like dead naming him.
Yeah, putting that old identity back on, and it destroys him. Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, and also because when he puts on the shirt at first, he's like, "Oh, cool, yeah, I'm wearing my old shirt. I wore at my wedding, and I remember how much I love her." And then slowly he goes from that to oh, and then sort of you get the anguish and stuff creeping in, and other people tell him, "Oh, you're gonna be fine, you know, just pretend it's fine." And he goes, "Yes, I will. I will not, you know, bend to this pain and torment and all that," which I find very interesting.
Yeah, that's a detail that I haven't heard in other tellings of this. I mean, I know the myth of the shirt of Nisus. Puts it on, he can't stand the pain, he commits suicide somehow. But that sort of like, I'm going to put up with it, but I can't. I think that's Heywood's innovation, and it's really interesting. Francis.
Yeah, I love the way Jason was saying to him at that point, "Pull yourself together, man. You're Hercules." Once again, it's that toxic masculinity thing.
Yeah, walk it off, you know. Yeah, work through the pain.
Yeah.
and even Hercules can't. And if he can't, like nobody can. Other thoughts? Well, we've got a little extra time, but we are where we are. So we have a lurker, and I want to invite our lurker to join in final thoughts. So turn on your camera if you want to join us for that. Hi, Ellen. So yeah, let's do some final thoughts to the play as a whole, or to today, if today is what is the only episode you're familiar with. And I'm just going to start with the tiles in the order that they are on my screen. Eric, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, that was, I mean, okay, we talked about how, you know, it's a bit ridiculous that all these myths and characters are mashed up together and stuff, and all the issues that sort of come with it, you know, like the masculinity stuff that we talked about. But what an ending. Just, sorry, I'm still reeling a bit from the whole thing. It's just, wow, just, I think that there are some parts that are like Heywood at his best, and then you've got some really random parts that are just like him vamping, and then it goes back to Heywood at his best and then vamping again. Like I don't know how I would stage it in a modern context, like sort of maybe sans Homer, or maybe even with Homer, but like as a sort of running commentary kind of thing. I don't know, like and I don't know how you would sort of parse all the boars and the sort of costume budget, because I think we were talking about this yesterday, like just getting all the costumes together for production is very difficult, especially like because there was I think it was dragon, boar, furies, fire, serpents, and lots of other things that came into like it at the beginning. Fireworks as well, I think, which obviously, you know, you wouldn't be able to do, but we have the special effects for that now. There's a part of me going, I really want to see this on the stage. just because it's fascinating, but also it shouldn't be given a platform for this kind of thing, like the masculinity parts and the sort of, all the women being killed off or demonized for being women and reacting in a reasonably normal way. Yeah, I don't know, just kind of, there's so much to it, so many layers.
I mean, yeah, and I definitely agree with that sense of unevenness. There are moments that are Heywood is best, that are brilliant, and then it's just like, yeah, whatever. Francis, final thoughts.
Yeah, well, as I think we said, it's the play as a whole is a very mixed bag, and there's some great bits in it and some rather dull bits. It does make me want to find a book about the Greek myths, because that would be very helpful, not just reading this play, but all the other early modern plays that we read, because as we know, there are lots of classical allusions, and it's something I've been meaning to do for years, is to just sort of bring up my knowledge of the Greek myths. As I said on Monday as well, in staging and costume and special effects terms, it's a very ambitious play for its time. And as Briony said, I'd love to see how they staged some of these bits back in the day. And I also think the gender. I was wondering, could you get your blue pencil and just extract the bits from this that bring up the gender tension with Hercules? I think that could be very interesting for a modern audience.
Okay, so just sort of a footnote, if you want to do a little background to help you navigate early modern drama in relation to classical myths, just read Ovid's Metamorphoses. Okay. Yeah, that was like the number one source for early modern authors. I get the sense that yeah. Ovid's take on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Will tell you 99% of what you need to know. Really.
Thank you. Yeah. I will do that.
Emma, do you have final thoughts for us?
Yeah, so I've just kind of come into this for the last section, and I have really enjoyed it, but I do kind of get the sense that it's the play is kind of a vehicle for spectacle. I kind of noticed on the stage direction as we went on, things like Hercules tearing down whole trees, hands coming down from heaven. So yeah, a vehicle for spectacle. However, kind of in agreement with everyone else, there are some brilliant parts to it. The sort of love triangle between Hercules and Deianira and Omphale is really good. Yeah, that's me, I think.
Okay. Briony, we're going to interrupt your
yogurt eating.
Your yogurt or whatever that is.
Yeah, sorry everyone. Yeah, I can't really comment on the play as a whole because, like Emma, I jumped into this last session, but there's a lot there that you could work with, and I would be really interested to see what you could do around gender and gender ideas with this, and because there's some elements that are really ahead of its time as well, like the feeling of Omphale having this dominatrix hold over Hercules, and even the way, like Rachael said, it probably wasn't intended in the way we've read it, but that what they've kind of said about Hercules' personality, if not his gender, at the end is very interesting, and like his madness is very like sympathetically written in terms of a modern audience. So I think it'd be yeah, there's a lot here that you could work with and workshop and maybe put on. I don't know.
Alan, some final thoughts?
I must admit, I've not had much cause to revise my thoughts from day one. And I think to a certain extent, that final half page of the epilogue from Homer which is an extended mea culpa. Almost gives it away. Yeah, I tried to cram an awful lot of stuff in here. Some of it's work, some of it won't work. But hell, I've got your admittance money anyway, so I'm not really too bothered. Sorry, I may be sounding incredibly cynical about it. I think if anybody tried to do a production of this, it would probably involve Lucasfilm and Industrial Light and Magic, because it's actually calling out for an SFX movie. Yeah. Except the thing is, I don't think they would actually manage to beat what Harryhausen did, 50, 60, 70 years ago, in terms of doing SFX for something like this.
Okay, I actually don't get that reference, but maybe that's my.
Do you not know the Ray Harryhausen animations? There's a superb clip which keeps coming round of the scene of the sowing of the dragon's teeth on the beach, out of which emerged the Spartan army fully armed. It is an absolute classic bit of stop frame animation that was done literally frame by frame. And I think it's 1930s, if not potentially earlier. I'm sure it exists on YouTube or other fora. Ray Harryhausen, Harryhausen, I think. But it is an absolute classic piece of work.
Well, I did not know, but I knew there was a Jason and the Argonauts that was stop frame animation from the 60s, the 70s.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize there was anything earlier, so that's really
I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was done before any of this modern CGI stuff, when it actually involved people with craft skills rather than computer skills.
Did I saw some hands waving. Okay, all right. Well, Rachael, you're next in queue for final thoughts.
Oh, I didn't know that was who he meant, the Jason and the Argonauts guy. But
no,
oh, it's a different person. Okay. Okay. I really liked the last episode. I think there's something that you could use to, as a theater piece to talk about a lot of things, to have discussions that we're having now. There's a ton of, monologues and stuff. I mean, Heywood writes beautifully. I'm more of a like, when we were doing If You Know Not Me, and we were having scenes with Elizabeth and Mary going back and forth, like those more psychological type plays than this, which is very spectacle. But at the same time, I really liked his women. I liked Atlanta. I liked Hesione. I loved Medea. I loved getting to do that. I loved Omphale today. So he's been giving a lot of women in this one and in his other age plays, that even though I don't like the sexism that comes up in the toxic masculinity stuff, I love the women because they spit in the face of it every once in a while.
Yeah. So I've just noticed some chats coming up. Yes. So the Ray Harryhausen's Jason and the Argonauts. Yes, same director. It's a little later. It was the 1950s.
All right.
Yeah, but I remember seeing Jason and the Argonauts on television when I was a kid. So it was cutting edge stuff at the time, and extremely labor intensive, creating all that stuff. Helen has joined us for final thoughts. So Helen, what are your thoughts about today? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I was very properly muted, but I'm not usually. I regard this as episode somewhere around 18 of 25.
Okay.
Because what you've got are 5 plays, of which this is the 3rd, and they are all very, very episodic. And they are, in fact, a series of one-act plays. Mm-hmm. Now, How on earth that would have worked on the early modern stage, I don't know. I mean, I'm reminded of one of the road films where Bing Crosby gets out his guitar and ready to start singing. And Bob Hope looks at the camera and said, "Okay, folks, this is the moment to get the popcorn." Because I think, for some of these will be highly spectacular. Some of them are full of history and words and talk. Some of them don't actually go anywhere. I mean, the Medea story kind of ended, and then we got the remains of it narrated. I think that there are a lot of problems for staging it today. There would, I think, have been a lot of problems for staging it then, but there must have been massive cost for the costumes, for the music, for the spectacle, for the effects. I mean, somebody has got to dress up as a cock, and as Gallus drops into the trap, they come up. And it's got to be a fairly spectacular cock. I mean, nothing, okay, a fairly spectacular rooster, as they say in the States. I mean, we don't want anything rooster-shaped or sized, apart from the fact that I think they're probably impossible to train. There are all sorts of problems and thoughts, but Heywood is zapping us through the whole of Greek mythology so fast that it's really difficult to stop and say, hang on, this little bit, how on earth would we stage it? How on earth did they stage it? But I'm quite fond of these plays in a perverse sort of way. And actually, I think the further we go into them, the better they get. I mean, the second part of Iron is it's an enormous journey from the first part of Gold. So I'm looking forward to doing the next two, far more than I have been for doing the last two.
Excellent. Eric.
Yeah, and also I think having read part of the second one, having edited those with Helen, I think it becomes more focused, and this one could have easily been like the Hercules story, because he's basically throughout. He turns up throughout. They could have cut out some parts, but then there's part of me going, but what about Venus and Adonis? What about Medea? What about all these characters? And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know how they would have shuffled around that or something. But also, like, sort of, I don't know if, like, for example, we didn't see that many deaths on stage. We saw Adonis coming in gored by the boar. We saw, yeah, that's about it. And then we saw 3 in very quick succession. Which was very, very strange. I mean, strange in terms of like, bum, 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 and just kind of, I don't know, it can hit you really hard as an audience member, I think. And if it was shorter, I think it would have been even worse. Worse in terms of like emotionally, not sort of like, how do you get there emotionally? I don't know. Yeah.
Process.
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts before I sort of check in with everyone. Again, Alan said something about the epilogue, and yeah, it struck me that after this agonizing, very emotionally taxing sequence with the death of Hercules, the epilogue is such a wet noodle. It's so anticlimactic. Oh, I tried to stuff a lot in here, I know, but we want you to applaud anyway. We hope you like it. What a come down. And because I am somewhat familiar with the Hercules myth and the Shirt of Nessus, I was disappointed that we don't witness the death of Deianira, because it's very touching. There's a version of the myth where she goes through their home touching all the furniture. And just sort of to remind her of their life together before she commits suicide. So her death is actually really, really heartbreaking. And she wanted her husband back and she ended up killing him. And it's just tragic. But she really gets short shrift at the end. And that, I found that really disappointing. But I think Eric has a point. It might have just been too much. That last sequence is so harrowing that going back to Thebes and actually staging Deianira's suicide, that might have just been, that's just too much. The audience is just you're gonna lose them because they can't at that point. I think that might be what's going on there. Briony, another little wave.
Yeah, just as well. I think that again, it's the kind of the balance of emotional versus physical, and the deaths that we did see instead were very physical, visceral. I can't think of a more disturbing stage death than bashing someone's head in with a rock, honestly. Like, I mean, we've read about hangings and stuff, and yes, I'm sure that would be quite, because we're people and we have empathy and somebody's dying, but bashing someone's head in a rock is such a way to do it. Whereas, like you say, that was a lot more emotional and thought out, and it would have required a lot more pages and groundwork and things, I guess. Whereas in one sentence, stage direction,
which Eric very perceptively recognizes as stage director and skipped, but I wasn't quick enough to jump in and read that he takes Lychas and swings him around his head and kills him, and then he bashes poor Omphale's head in with a rock. And we're on some level aware at that moment that neither of them are actually guilty of anything. Lychas didn't know, and Omphale is not in fact Deianira. He just mistakes her for his wife. So kind of adds to the horror of that moment, is that neither of them actually did anything. All right. Any other conclusions, responses, feedback from feedback? All right, so Brace herself, our Zoom engineer. All that remains is to thank everyone for their work today. Thank you for allowing me to stumble through this second part with all of you. Until next time. Thank you. And I didn't pick a tagline.